All right, this is the watch list video for Friday, September 23rd. You can see today the SPY an extremely narrow range. I mean, look at the size of all these candles, and then today, a lot of times when you have a gap up, you end up with that kind of narrow range. And actually, on an intraday basis, trading's not so, there's not that many great opportunities. There were certainly some nice ones in chat today. We've got our oil specialist, Oki, called SM. He focuses on very few oil stocks and he focuses on them, and he's good. Called SM short, literally right here where my cursor is, right there. Short at 36.80 with a high of day stop. It went down $1 from there at one point. Excellent call. I called LEU right about here, 395, and over the course of about 10 minutes, it went up to 430. At one point, I thought that was going to be a multi-day runner, but it gave back a lot of its gains. But that was a nice trade there. Lumber Liquidators was on the watch list. Called it long right about here. Had a nice move there. AEGR, Ramesh, one of our members, called AEGR long right over this little tight flag right there. I mean, that's what we try to focus on in chat is stocks that should work right away. All right, and you'll notice that a lot of the stuff we call just works right away, and if it's not going to work, I don't hang out in them. So that's why I always tell people I'm never underwater more than I think 60 seconds, 1 to 2 minutes at most in a stock. Because I'm trying to find inflection points and get long right at those points, and if it doesn't move right after I take it, I don't hang out. Right? I've been through those years of being underwater and then hoping something turns around. And then the next thing you know, you're farther underwater, and your balance gets worse and worse, and then you consider holding overnight because you can't take the loss and so on. I just got so burnt out on that I developed a style that I have now, which is sitting in cash, waiting for these inflection points, getting long right at that right moment, scaling out quickly. It's a great feeling to never be underwater in a stock and hoping. So that's what I try to teach in our trading course. Speaking of which, is Monday, this upcoming Monday. Let me check a calendar here. Monday the 26th is the final day to sign up for this October 1st trading course. So visit the website if you're interested at all, because we're cutting off registration then. That is the Monday before the October 1st class, which is on a Saturday. So registration is running out, and there are still a few slots left. So let me go into the watch list for tomorrow. This one is interesting to me because of the volume. Now, this huge volume spike here is still only 1.5 million shares to tell you how thin this thing's traded. It was a week ago, it was $4. A month ago, it was $12, and so on. So, I do think the volume today, you have all these red candles, and then you kind of found equilibrium today, closing about where it opened. Might be a tell that this thing might bounce tomorrow. So, I want to watch this one. It's RGSE, super thin, tiny float. I think that one's got potential to bounce tomorrow. That volume, to me, might be saying something. All right, so that's RGSE HPJ. Broke out a little bit over that $3 area today, but I like this big spike here, big spike here. It flushed down below 3. The FOMC meeting's behind us. This one looks good, especially over today's high. It might retake this 320 and maybe make a move toward this high. So also, I think a pretty low float is definitely worth watching. BTX, I really like this one. It had a nice pop back here. It's a lower high, flagged for a few days, and then right back up to that recent high, and nice volume on this pop. So this one looks really good over today's high, over 360. The high from whatever it was about 2 weeks ago was 363. This one might just take off. So keep your eyes on BTX. AVXL, nice pop today on volume. Gave back some of its early gains, closing at 328. The high of the day was 354. Maybe a red to green, something like that in that one tomorrow. That volume is certainly interesting. VCEL. This is pretty close to a potential breakout. You had a high back here of 274. Today's high, 273. So up over today's high, I'm going to say 275. Might just get this thing going. Right, it's kind of had the 200 days been resistance, and you're starting to see, if I zoom in, you can see a little bit of volume coming in, right? So I do like this one over today's high. Pretty handsome chart there. VCEL. Let's go to Etsy, ETSY. Had this a breakout attempt yesterday, and then today stayed inside of yesterday's range, but closing at its high. So Over today's high would be 1483. That might be enough to push it through that whole number 15. And if you go to the weekly, you can see that it's, this thing's way down from its all-time highs. So it's interesting to me, and there it is on the daily. So you sort of have not an intraday. I mean a daily cup and handle from here. Here's the big cup. Here's the handle. So this one looks pretty good. Pretty good setup there. ETSY, NYMX. This one, it had this big spike back here, another big spike here, and then it's trailing along. And I was looking for a long. I do like it over 350. It's just kind of weird though. I don't know what it is about this thing. But I like it over 350, so we'll see. And then it might make a move toward that $4 area. Let's keep our eyes on it, but not in love with it. BSPM came in a day after gapping up. This was on the watch list coming into today. No trades in it, but I'd like to see it come in another day, and then it'd be much more interesting. But I still like the action in that one lately, so I'm going to start watching it for a potential long setup tomorrow. SAEX, I gotta put this one on the list because of this volume spike here. I think it was a reverse split that made it go crazy back here. It went from 1019 to 49, and then the very next morning all the way up to 75. That's insane. Remember KBIO? I mean, it was that kind of a move. And it's done nothing ever since. But then today, much, much bigger volume than back here. So I don't have a long in it, like an entry idea. The high was 1050. But if this thing can trade in a narrow range for a while tomorrow and then break through the high of day, I'm going to be all over this one. So keep your eyes on SAEX for a potential second day squeeze. TTOO, I'll pan out a little bit here. You had a nice spike back here, a little bit of a lower high, and then today nice volume. This one looks like it might have another day in it, so we'll watch it for a red to green, something like that tomorrow. That's TTOO, sorry. GLMD. Should have been on watch today because it had the gap up and then another day down. I should have had it on watch today and I didn't. But the volume is bigger than the day it gapped up, and so this one might have another day in it too. A lot of times, even though as a trader I look at this and think, hey, this is extended, right? It's pretty far away from the moving averages. I don't even want to think about it long. Sometimes those are the ones that continue for 2 or 3 days. So with a proper intraday setup, I will take that one tomorrow. We'll see, right? PTCT. After breaking out over this high, which was 1015, right? You had kind of a big cup and handle there, and you had the breakout through the 1015 area on nice volume. You're really kind of flagging ever since, so I want to watch this for a potential flag break. One area would be over 1120 over today's high, but I just want to keep that one on watch. It's a pretty handsome chart setup. And then lastly, I have CYCC, a little bit obscure, but it's had a nice move from the $5 to the $6 area, and of course, and keep in mind that's like a 20% move in 4 days. Apple doesn't really do that. And so now you're flagging a couple days lower, but it's holding up pretty well. So I'm going to keep that one on watch. But again, it's a little bit obscure. Somebody emailed me today and said, what do you attribute your day trading success to? Because I guess they've seen some of my, winning percentages and how rare it is for me to have a red day. And my answer, in short, is I literally only focus on recent high flyer. So that's why I'm bringing this up, because this really isn't a recent high flyer. Back here it was, okay? For example, you had this big 2-day move here. Okay, so if you were focused on this because of this massive 2-day move from $5.50 to over $9, right? 2 or 3 day move, and then you got a couple red days. Look what happens on that third day after that. You gapped up and ripped again, even though it gave some of that back. That was probably a good trade that day, right? So now you don't have really the volume. You don't have, when I say recent, I really mean going back like a week. I try to have most of my stocks be recent high flyers, like a week back at the most, okay? So that's what I attribute my success to. A couple things. One, focusing on only recent high flyers. Two, making sure that I don't take an entry unless it's at an intraday inflection point. So if it's breaking out on an intraday basis, maybe over resistance, or maybe it's right below yesterday's high and it's got a flag at today's high and so on. In other words, it's got another catalyst just above. If I take that trade as it's breaking through that resistance price, it should work right away, okay? So it's just that, it's literally that simple. It should work right away. So if it does, I can start scaling out into the volume that comes in. If it doesn't, I don't hang out. I just don't hang out, right? I'll take a small loss. I almost never take a full stop out. If I have a 20-cent stop on something, I'm more 99% of the time I'm not going to lose 20 cents on it. because it should have worked right away. So there's my trading style summed up in a little bit of babbling. It's just that simple. You got to focus on the right stocks. You got to focus on the right entry point, and then you've got to remember to pay yourself as it's working. Those three things that's really, I don't want to say it's all you need to know. Of course, there's a lot more about trading you need to know, but those are the three things you really need to focus on, and you can really turn around your P&L and your percentage wins and all that. So anyway, I'm done babbling, guys. Have a good night. Talk to you tomorrow.